Once upon a time, in a loud city that never slept, there was a girl named Ngozi. She was 17. She was careful, quiet, and brave in a way that did not shout. She kept a small cloth pouch tied inside her dress, close to her heart. Inside the pouch were dried leaves her mother gave her before she died. Her mother called them help in your pocket. Ngozi did not call them magic. She called them memory. She slept under the Ojalegba flyover, where buses grumbled like tired lions and horns argued all day. She woke before the sun because mornings were safer. She would smooth her hair with water from a sachet, fold the cardboard she used as a mat, and whisper, "Get up, Ngozi. Today will not win." People called her Witch Girl because bad things happened in her house after her father died and her stepmother blamed her. The word followed her like dust. Ngozi did not fight the word. She fought to keep her heart soft. That morning, the sky was the color of old smoke. Hawkers shouted, "Gala! Pure water!" A bus conductor clapped his hand against metal and yelled for passengers. Ngozi stood at the traffic light with a rag and a small bottle of soapy water. When cars stopped, she cleaned windshields. Some drivers dropped coins. Some waved her away like a fly. A few rolled up their windows and stared through her, as if she was the glass. A boy from the bridge, small and fast, pointed at her pouch. "Ngozi, what is in there? Is it the witch leaf?" "It is my mother's," she said, cool but kind. "If you call it a witch leaf again, I will not share biscuits with you." He laughed and ran off. She smiled even though her stomach felt like an empty pocket. She finished with one car, wiped her hands, and looked up at the sky. Rain was coming. You could taste it in the air, metal and new. By evening, the rain fell hard, straight and heavy, beating the road into dark mirrors. Ngozi pulled an old nylon over her head and stood back under the flyover where people hid from the downpour. The sound was wild, like a drum that would not stop. Danfo buses pushed through water, their headlights making pale paths on the wet street. The air smelled of diesel, wet dust, and roasted corn from a stubborn woman who kept her fire alive under a sheet of zinc. Then the convoy came. First a motorcycle with a flashing light cut through the rain. Behind it, 3 black SUVs slid to the curb under the flyover. Guards jumped out. One held an umbrella. Another opened a back door. A tall man in a fine suit stepped down, slow and stiff, like his body was arguing with him. His face was handsome but tired in a rich man's way. People whispered, "Chief." Even the rain seemed to listen. The man took one step, then stopped. His mouth opened but no words came. His chest rose and fell too fast. He pressed a hand to his throat, eyes wide in a private panic. He coughed once, twice, and dropped to his knees on the wet ground. "Call the ambulance," a guard shouted. "Now, now." Another guard fumbled with his phone, hands shaking. "Yes, sir, I am calling. Please breathe, sir." A third one stood uselessly with the umbrella, as if dry clothes were still a thing that mattered. People drew closer and then back again, unsure, afraid to be blamed if things went wrong. The man's breaths were short and tight, like a door that would not open. He tried to speak and only wheezed. His fingers clawed at the air. Ngozi did not think long. Her feet moved before fear could hold them. She dropped her nylon cover, knelt by the man, and said, "Sir, look at me." He did not. His eyes were glassy and far. She knew that look. She had seen breathing fail in a neighbor once. She had seen a chest fight its ribs and lose. She pulled the cloth pouch from her dress with wet hands. The guards stared. "Hey, leave him," one shouted. "What are you doing? Who are you?" "She is that witch girl," someone hissed. "Keep her away." Ngozi did not stop. "He cannot wait," she said. "Please, hold the umbrella lower. Keep his face out of rain." The guard with the umbrella, confused and desperate, obeyed. Ngozi tore the pouch open with her teeth. She brought out 2 leaves, dark, dry, and sharp with smell even through the rain. She crushed them between her palms until their scent rose warm and strong, like clean pepper and forest. Her mother once showed her this for tight chests, and she had believed because there was nothing else to believe. "Sir," she said, soft but firm, "breathe here." She cupped her hands near his nose and mouth, not touching, letting the vapor climb into him. Slowly. In. Out. Follow my voice. In. Out. The man fought for air, then caught a thin thread of it. A small sound, not a word, came from his throat. Ngozi moved her hands a little closer. Good. Again. In. Out. A guard crouched beside her, wet to the bone. "Will this work?" he asked, voice breaking. "It is helping," she said. "Please do not shout. Let him hear me." The rain softened to a steady hiss. The crowd held its breath like one body. The man's shoulders, which had been hard as wood, began to loosen a little. He coughed, a sharp cough that hurt to hear, and a spray of spit hit the wet ground. He swallowed, blinked, and turned his face toward Ngozi's hands as if the smell was a rope pulling him back. She warmed the crushed leaves between her palms again and held them steady. In, out. Good, sir. Keep going. He closed his eyes and breathed, shallow but real. He reached for her wrist without looking, just to know something living was there. She did not pull away. She kept counting, kept breathing with him, keeping her own breath calm so he could borrow its rhythm. Sirens cried in the distance. The guards looked up with relief. "They are close," one said. Ngozi nodded and leaned closer. "You are not dying today," she whispered. "Not for the crowd, not for the guards, but for the man and herself. You are stronger than this, sir. Stay with me." His hand tightened for 1 second. His chest rose deeper. He took a long breath that sounded like a door finally opening. He looked at her then, truly looked, and the fear in his eyes changed to surprise. Rain ran down his lashes like thin glass. He tried to speak. No voice came, but his lips formed a thank you. The ambulance stopped with a rush of lights and water. Paramedics ran out with a stretcher and a box. They moved the man with quick care. One placed a mask over his face. Another checked numbers on a small screen. "Pulse coming back," he said. "Breathing is shallow but steady." "Who helped him?" a paramedic asked, eyes scanning the faces. The guard with the umbrella pointed. "Her." Ngozi stood, knees muddy, dress heavy with rain, leaves crushed green against her palms. For a moment she felt small under the wide flyover and the wider city. Then the billionaire, face behind the mask, turned his head toward her as they lifted him into the ambulance. His gaze locked on hers. It was a look like a hand reaching across a river. It said he had seen her. It said he would not forget. "Come," a guard said, gentler now, but the crowd had already closed around her with whispers. "Is she a witch?" someone asked. "She saved him," another said. "Maybe she caused it," a third voice muttered. "These things have two sides." Ngozi closed the empty pouch and tied it back into her dress. Her fingers shook only a little. The ambulance doors slammed. The siren rose and fell and then faded into the wet night. She stepped backward into the shadow of the flyover and sat on her folded cardboard. The rain slowed to a soft patter, like the end of a long song. She looked at her hands and saw the faint green stain of the leaves, the small proof that she had done something that mattered. She did not smile. She only breathed, deep and even, the way she had asked him to breathe. Somewhere out there, the rich man was alive. Somewhere near her, people were still whispering her name with fear and doubt. But inside, under the noise, Ngozi felt a quiet thing settle. It was not pride. It was not magic. It was the steady voice of her mother in her memory saying, "Help in your pocket, help in your heart." She leaned her head against the cold pillar and watched the road shine. Night moved on. Buses grumbled again. The roasted corn fire glowed small and patient. And the girl they called a witch waited for the morning, not knowing that the look from the man in the ambulance had already changed the road ahead. The rain had stopped by dawn, but Lagos still smelled of it. Damp air, wet earth, and exhaust fumes rising from the morning traffic. Under the Ojuelegba flyover, Ngozi sat cross-legged on her folded cardboard, her back against the cold concrete pillar. She hadn't slept much, Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the man's face in the rain, his hand squeezing her wrist, his lips trying to form a thank you. The streets woke fast. Hawkers appeared with trays balanced on their heads, calling out bread, groundnuts, and boiled eggs. Bus conductors banged on metal and yelled for passengers. The smell of frying akara drifted from a nearby stall. Ngozi's stomach twisted at the scent, but she ignored it. She didn't have the money to think about food yet. By the time the sun began to climb, the whispers had started. "That's her," a woman selling oranges murmured to her neighbor. "The witch girl that saved the rich man." A man buying oranges snorted. "Saved him? Or did she cause it? You people forget how these witches work. They bring the sickness, then pretend to cure it." Ngozi could hear every word. She kept her eyes on the ground, rubbing her thumb over the little cloth pouch inside her dress. A group of street boys she knew from the bridge came over. One of them, tall and thin, grinned wide. "Ngozi, they say you touched Chief Obina's chest and he woke up like film trick." Another boy laughed. "Film trick coup? She used that witch leaf in her pocket. I told you before." Ngozi looked at him sharply. "It is not witch leaf. It is medicine my mother taught me." The tall boy tilted his head. "Then why do people die when you're around? You were in your house when your father died, ABI." Her stomach knotted. "You think I killed my father?" Her voice was low but steady. He shrugged. "That's what your stepmother said." Ngozi stood, her fists tight at her sides. "My stepmother lied because she wanted me gone. She wanted the house to herself. I don't need to explain myself to you." The boys exchanged looks, then drifted away, their laughter thin and mocking. She sat back down, pulling her knees to her chest. She told herself their words didn't matter, but they settled like stones inside her. The truth was, she had heard these accusations so many times that they almost felt like another name. Witch girl. Bad luck. Cursed. She pressed her forehead to her knees and tried to push the words out of her head. By midday, the market near the flyover was crowded. The sound of haggling mixed with the honk of impatient drivers. Ngozi stood near the traffic lights again, washing windshields, collecting coins. She kept glancing at the road, half expecting to see the black convoy again. It was almost evening when she heard a voice behind her. "Are you Ngozi?" She turned. A tall man in a crisp white shirt stood there, holding an umbrella even though the sky was clear. He was well-dressed, clean shoes, gold watch. Not the type of person who usually stopped to talk to her. "Yes," she said, wary. "I work for Chief Obina," he said. "My name is Mr. Chaik." Her chest tightened. Is he all right?" "He is recovering. He asked me to find you." Ngozi blinked. "Why?" "To thank you, and to give you something for what you did." She shook her head before he could say more. "I don't want money." He looked surprised. "It's not just money. He stopped, studying her face. "Why don't you want it?" "I didn't help him for a reward. I just didn't want him to die." For a moment, he said nothing. The noise of the market moved around them. The cry of a plantain seller, the blare of a horn, the rattle of a bus door. "Chief Obina will want to speak to you himself," Chaik said at last. "Will you come with me?" Ngozi stepped back. "I don't know you. How do I know this is not a trick?" "You can follow me to the hospital if you want," he said. "Ask anyone there. You will see I'm telling the truth." She hesitated. She thought of the look the man had given her in the ambulance, the promise in his eyes. Then she thought of all the times strangers had lied to her. "Not today," she said finally. "If he really wants to thank me, he can come himself." Chaik seemed about to argue, but then he nodded. "Very well, but don't disappear." He walked away, his white shirt disappearing into the crowd. That night, the whispers grew louder. Some people said she was smart to refuse the money because rich people's gifts were traps. Others said she was foolish. No one refused a billionaire's offer unless they had something to hide. A woman passing by stopped to glare at her. "I know your type," the woman said. pretty face hiding a dark heart. That man should be careful with you. Ngozi didn't reply. She watched the woman leave, her heart heavy but her face calm. 2 days passed. Life under the flyover went back to its rhythm. Early mornings, endless traffic, scraping together enough to eat. But something felt different. More people were watching her. More were talking. On the third day, she woke to find Chaik waiting by the pillar where she slept. This time, he wasn't alone. Another man stood with him, short, neat beard, wearing a black suit. Ngozi, Chaik said, "This is Mr. Philip, Chief Obina's personal assistant." Philip stepped forward. "The chief insists on seeing you. He is at home now. He sent his car to bring you." She shook her head again. "I don't belong in a place like that." Philip's voice softened. "He owes you his life. Please, even if you don't want anything from him, let him say thank you." Ngozi looked from one man to the other. Something in Philip's tone was different. Less like an order, more like a plea. "All right," she said quietly, "but I can't stay long." They led her to a sleek black car parked at the edge of the market. People stared as she got in. She could feel their eyes on her through the glass, their whispers chasing the car as it pulled away. "Which girl going to the big man's house?" someone said. "Let's see if she comes back." Ngozi sat stiff in the back seat, her hands folded in her lap, the city sliding past in flashes. Tall buildings, crowded bus stops, bright billboards. She had not been in a car like this since before her father died. The leather seats smelled faintly of perfume and something sharper, like new paper. Philip glanced at her in the mirror. "The chief has been asking about you every day. He was moved by what you did." "I just helped him breathe," she said. "Not everyone would have stepped forward," he replied. The car turned into a quiet street lined with tall gates and trimmed hedges. It stopped in front of a wide iron gate that opened at once. Inside, the driveway curved through a garden full of flowers and tall trees. The house at the end was huge, painted white, with glass windows that caught the evening light. Ngozi's breath caught. She had never seen a home like this up close. Philip opened the door for her. "Come." They led her up the steps to the front door. It opened into a high-ceilinged hall with polished floors. The air was cool and smelled faintly of roses. A woman in a dark uniform appeared, her eyes sweeping over Ngozi with surprise before she stepped aside. They walked through the hall into a large sitting room. Chief Obina sat in an armchair, wearing a light blue kaftan. He looked thinner than he had under the flyover, but his eyes were alert now. When he saw her, he smiled. Not the polite smile rich people give strangers, but something warmer. "Ngozi," he said, his voice deep but gentle. "Come closer." She stepped forward slowly. "You saved my life," he said. "I do not forget such things." "I only did what I could," she replied. "What you could was more than anyone else did," he said. "Even my own men froze, but you moved." He gestured to a chair. "Sit." She hesitated, then sat on the edge, her hands in her lap. "I want to thank you properly," he said. "Tell me, what do you need? Food? A place to stay? School?" Ngozi's eyes dropped to the floor. "I'm fine," she said. He leaned forward. "You are not fine. You sleep under a bridge. I know this. You deserve better." She shook her head. "I don't want to take anything I didn't earn." Chief Obina studied her for a long moment. "Then let me give you work. Live here. Help in the house. You will have food, a bed, and safety. No one will call you witch here." Her chest tightened at his words. The thought of a real bed, of safety, was like a door she hadn't dared to touch in a long time. I need to think," she said. "Think," he agreed. "But do not take too long. Life can change faster than you expect." Philip escorted her back to the car. As they drove out through the tall gates, Ngozi glanced back at the house. Something in her told her this was not the last time she would see it. Back under the flyover that night, the market lights glowing and the noise rising around her, she lay awake on her cardboard, staring at the dark. She could still hear his voice in her head. No one will call you witch here. She wondered if that could really be true. Morning came slow under the flyover. The sky was pale, and the air felt fresh after the rains. Ngozi sat on her folded cardboard with her knees pulled close, watching buses line up and hawkers arrange their trays. She had not slept well. Her mind kept returning to the big white house and the man in the blue kaftan who said, "No one will call you witch here." She touched the small cloth pouch inside her dress and breathed in and out, steady. She thought of her mother. She thought of safety. She thought of how long the nights were under the bridge, and how loud fear was in the dark. A small hand tugged her sleeve. It was the little boy from the bridge, the one who always asked about the leaves. "Ngozi," he whispered, "are you going to the rich man's house?" "I don't know," she said. "Maybe." "Go," he said. "If he is good, he will hide you from the bad people." He looked up and added, "But don't forget us." She touched his cheek. "I won't." By mid-morning, a black car eased to the curb near the flyover. People turned to stare. Mr. Philip stepped out in his neat suit, and Mr. Chaik came around the other side with a small smile. The crowd began to talk. "Which girl's ride is here? Careful, oh. Maybe they will arrest her." Philip ignored the whispers. He walked straight to Ngozi and spoke softly. "The chief asked if you have decided." Ngozi rose, brushed the dust from her skirt, and nodded once. "I will come. I will work. But I don't want money I didn't earn." "You will work," he said, "and you will be treated with respect." Chaik opened the car door. "Ready." Ngozi took one last look at the pillars, the buses, the roasted corn fire, and the children she knew by name. She felt the road pull in two directions, past and future, and then she chose. She got into the car. As they drove, the city changed shape. The noise softened, the roads grew wider, the houses taller. The car slid through a gate into a calm garden where the grass was cut short and flowers stood in neat lines. The White House rose ahead, bright against the blue sky. Inside, cool air touched her face. Marble floors shone. Framed photos lined the hall, Chief Obinna shaking hands with big men, cutting ribbons, smiling with children in school uniforms. In one picture he stood with a woman in a purple dress, her smile warm and proud. In another, he stood with a young man who looked like him around the eyes. A woman in a dark uniform stepped forward, her face careful. "Welcome," she said. "I am Madame Rose. I run the house." Philip nodded to her. "Please call the chief." They led Ngozi into a sitting room where light fell through wide windows onto a soft rug. She stood at the edge, hands folded, heart steadying itself. Chief Obinna came in slowly, but he stood tall. He wore a simple white kaftan today. His face looked better, less tight, less scared. "Ngozi," he said, and the way he said her name reached her like a hand. "You came." "I came to work," she said. He smiled. "Good." He sat and gestured to a chair. "Please." She sat on the edge again. He looked her over, not in a cold way, but as if he wanted to be sure she was real. "How did you sleep?" he asked. "I sleep under the bridge," she said. "So I don't sleep well." "You will sleep well today." He turned to Philip. "Has the room been prepared?" "Yes, sir," Philip said. Chief Obinna looked back at Ngozi. "I have a small room in the staff quarters. It has a bed, a window, and a wardrobe. It is not big, but it is safe. You will help Madame Rose in the house, laundry, cleaning, sometimes the kitchen. You will eat 3 times a day. If you want to go to school later, we will discuss it." Ngozi's throat tightened at the word bed. She looked down so her eyes would not give away too much. "Thank you," she said. "I am the one who should thank you," he replied. "There is one more thing. In this house, no one will speak to you with insult. If anyone does, you tell me. Do you understand?" She looked up, surprised by the force of his voice. "Yes, sir." He relaxed back into his chair. "Good. Madame Rose will show you around." Madame Rose stepped forward, still formal. "This way, please." They walked through a corridor that smelled faintly of roses and Polish. Madame Rose's shoes made a soft sound on the floor. They passed a wide kitchen full of stainless steel, a dining room with a long table, a back door that opened onto a courtyard where sunlight lay warm on clean stones. Beyond the courtyard was a low building with 6 doors. Madame Rose stopped at the third. "This is your room," she said. Ngozi went in. The room was small but bright. A clean sheet lay smooth on the bed. A folded towel sat on a chair. A simple wooden wardrobe stood open, empty and ready. A window looked out at a mango tree with green fruit hanging like lanterns. Ngozi touched the bed with her fingertips and then pressed her palm to it. It did not move. It held. Madame Rose watched her with a face that did not show much. "We keep the house quiet," she said. "We work early. We keep things in order. This is a big house. We do not rush, but we do not drag our feet. Do you understand?" "Yes," Ngozi said. "I will learn fast." Madame Rose nodded. "You will begin after lunch." Ngozi changed into a clean dress that Madame Rose gave her, soft cotton that didn't scratch. She washed her face and hands in a small bathroom, watched the dirt run in thin streams, and felt the cool water tell her she had crossed a line. When she looked in the mirror, she saw the same face but a steadier set of eyes. Back in the sitting room, a low table was set with plates. A kind-faced cook named Madhu brought rice, stew, and fried plantain. "Eat," he said. "Don't be shy." Ngozi set a small portion on her plate, then added one more spoon when she caught Madhu's patient look. She took a bite. The stew was warm and rich. Her stomach eased and then woke up with a happy ache. As she ate, footsteps sounded in the hall, quick, confident. A young man in his late 20s walked in wearing a navy suit, tie loose, phone in hand. He had the chief's eyes. He stopped when he saw Ngozi at the table. "Who is this?" he asked, not unkind but sharp. Chief Obinna looked up. "Uche, this is Ngozi. She is joining the staff." Uche's gaze moved over her, curious and puzzled. "Staff? Today? I wasn't told." "You are being told now," the chief said, calm. Uche came closer. "Ngozi, is it? Welcome." He smiled a small smile that did not sit fully on his face. "Where did father find you?" Ngozi swallowed her food. "Under the flyover," she said. "Under the flyover," Uche repeated, as if tasting a strange spice. "Ah." Chief Obinna's tone cooled. "She saved my life." Uche's eyes flicked to his father, then back to Ngozi. "I heard different versions of that story," he said lightly. "Either way, you're here now." He held out his hand. "I am Uche Obinna." Ngozi wiped her palm on her dress and shook his hand. Uche's grip was warm, but his eyes searched her face for something. "Madame Rose runs a tight ship," he said. "You'll be fine if you listen." "I will listen," she said. Another voice floated in from the hall. Bright, female, quick. "Daddy, you promised to look at the designs for the foundation." A young woman swept in wearing a yellow dress and a slim gold necklace. She stopped when she saw Ngozi. "Oh!" "Kamsi," the chief said. "This is Ngozi." Kamsi's smile appeared and disappeared in the same second. "Hello." "She saved me," he added. Kamsi's eyebrows lifted, and the smile steadied, but her eyes stayed careful. Then, "Thank you," she said. "I'm Kamsi." She took a seat, still looking at Ngozi as if trying to place her on a map. Madhu came in with another tray. "Madam Kamsi, should I serve?" "Yes, thank you," she said, eye still on Ngozi. "How old are you?" 17, Ngozi replied. 17, Kamsi repeated softly, as if the number carried a story. "Where are your parents?" "My mother is dead," Ngozi said. "My father too." Kamsi's face softened at last. "I'm sorry," she said. She reached for a glass of water and drank. After a moment, she asked, "How did you know what to do that night?" "My mother taught me," Ngozi said. "For a tight chest." Uche leaned back in his chair. "Old leaves and prayers," he said with a thin grin. We thank God for small miracles. Chief Obinna glanced at him, and the grin faded. After lunch, work began. Madame Rose showed Ngozi how to fold linens the house way, edges sharp, stacks even. She taught her how to polish the side tables so they shone without smell. They wiped frames, dusted shelves, and kept footprints off the floor that wanted to keep a perfect shine. When they reached the study, Ngozi paused at the door. A glass cabinet stood against one wall, holding small carved figures and framed photos. One photo caught her eye. The chief stood with 3 people, Uche, Kamsi, and a woman in the purple dress she had seen in the hall. The woman stood close to him with her hand in his. Her eyes were warm and certain. His late wife, Madame Rose said quietly from behind her, "Madame Amora." Ngozi nodded once and moved on. By late afternoon, Ngozi's arms ached in a sweet way. Work filled the room in her head where worry liked to sit. She preferred that. She wanted to be tired from scrubbing, not from fear. As the sun dropped, a slim woman entered through the side door. She wore a pale blouse and dark skirt, a delicate watch, and a perfume that arrived 1 second before she did. She was beautiful in a sharp, well-kept way. She walked like she knew where everything should be and who should stand where. "Good evening, Madame Chine," Madame Rose said, straightening a cushion. "Evening," Chine replied. She turned to Ngozi, took her in from head to toe, and offered a small smile that did not warm her eyes. "You must be the new girl." "Yes, Ma," Ngozi said. "I am Chine," she said, turning the gold bracelet on her wrist. "I manage event plans for the family. Sometimes I manage other things." Her gaze lingered on the cloth pouch shape under Ngozi's dress. "You will find we like order here." "I will keep things in order," Ngozi said. "Good," Chine said, pleasant but distant. "We have guests this weekend. The house must shine." "It will shine," Madame Rose said. Chine nodded and drifted away, leaving a faint trail of perfume and a quiet chill. Evening turned the garden golden. The house grew softer with lamps and low talk. In the kitchen, Madhu made jollof rice and grilled fish. The smell wrapped the room like a friendly arm. Ngozi helped set the table in the dining room while listening to the hum of voices down the hall. At dinner, they sat, Chief Obinna at the head, Uche on his right, Kamsi on his left. Chinu sat beside Kamsi, the gold on her wrist catching the light. The talk began about the foundation school project, then moved to business meetings and a planned trip to Abuja. "Father," Uche said between bites, "the board asked if you are strong enough to return next week." "I am," the chief said, "but I will not rush." Chinu dabbed her lips with a napkin. "Everyone is praying for your full recovery," she said. "We thank God for the young girl's help." Kamsi glanced toward the kitchen where Ngozi was stacking plates on a tray. "Yes," she murmured. "We thank God." Uche looked again, his eyes unreadable. "Father, about bringing strangers into the house." "She is staff," the chief said. "We do not call staff strangers." Uche lifted his hands slightly. "I only mean, this house has seen trouble when we were not careful." "This house has seen trouble when we were careful too," the chief replied, and the words sat heavy on the table for a moment. Kamsi reached for her water. "Ngozi," she called, her tone gentle but clear. "Please bring more water." "Yes, madam," Ngozi said, coming forward with the jug. As she poured, Chine watched her hands closely, then glanced at the chief. "You look much better," she said in a bright tone. "Rest is good medicine." "Rest," the chief said. His eyes followed Ngozi as she moved back to the kitchen. When she passed the study door, she felt those eyes like a quiet guard at her back. The night settled. After the plates were washed and the counters wiped, Madame Rose said, "Go and sleep. Tomorrow we will do upstairs rooms." Ngozi went back to her small room in the staff quarters. She closed the door, leaned her head against it, and let the quiet hold her for a moment. Then she crossed to the bed and Saturday. She pressed her palm to the mattress again, as if to be sure it was still there. She opened the wardrobe and placed the spare dress neatly inside. She touched the window frame and looked out at the mango tree. A soft wind pushed the leaves like green hands waving goodnight. There was a knock. She stood and opened the door. Philip stood there with a small package. "The chief asked me to give you this," he said. "Basic things: soap, a toothbrush, a comb." Ngozi took the package. "Thank you." Philip hesitated. "I will be honest," he said, keeping his voice low. "Some people in this house will not be happy you are here. It is not about you, really. It is about what your presence means. The chief trusts you. Not everyone is ready to accept that." "I came to work," she said. "I won't cause trouble." "I know," Philip said, "but trouble sometimes comes even when we do not call it." He offered a small smile. "If anyone disturbs you, tell me, or tell the chief. Good night." "Good night," she said. She closed the door and sat on the bed again. She unwrapped the soap, smelled it, simple and clean, and smiled a small, private smile. She washed her face, brushed her teeth, and combed her hair slowly, feeling each stroke settle her inside. She lay down and stared at the ceiling. The house made different sounds than the bridge: soft clicks, a distant hum, the whisper of trees outside. Somewhere in the main house, a door closed. Somewhere in the garden, a night bird called. Her eyes grew heavy, then opened again when she heard voices outside. Low, sharp, two men passing the quarters. "Just shows up from under a bridge. Father is soft. People will use him. Watch her closely." The steps faded. Ngozi stared at the door, her breath slow and even. She did not get up. She did not run to press her ear to the wood. She had learned that some things were better met sitting still. She turned to the wall and curled under the sheet. She placed the cloth pouch against her chest and closed her eyes. She thought of the bridge, the rain, the hand that had squeezed her wrist in thanks. She thought of the mango tree and the way the leaves moved in the night like water. In the main house, the chief walked to his study and stood at the window, looking out toward the staff quarters. His face was thoughtful, his eyes clear. He touched his chest, breathed in and out, and then switched off the light. The house slept. Ngozi slept too, not yet knowing that the open door she had just walked through would not stay quiet for long. Because where there is new trust, old fear wakes up and begins to whisper. And in this house, whispers could grow into storms. Morning light slipped into Ngozi's small room, soft and golden. She woke to the sound of birds in the mango tree and the distant clink of plates in the main house. It felt strange to open her eyes and see a roof instead of the gray sky under the flyover. For a moment, she lay still, letting the quiet sink in. Then she remembered Philip's words from last night. "Some people will not be happy you are here." She dressed quickly, tied her pouch under her dress, and stepped outside. The air in the courtyard was cool, but the sun was already warming the tops of the flowers. Madame Rose was in the main kitchen, rolling up her sleeves as Madhu chopped onions. "Come, wash these plates," Madame Rose said without looking up. "Yes, Ma," Ngozi answered, moving to the sink. The warm water and soap felt good on her hands. "You will help me upstairs today," Madame Rose added. "The chief wants the rooms cleaned before the weekend. We will start with his study." Ngozi nodded, but inside, she felt her chest tighten a little. The study was a place she'd only glimpsed, a place that seemed to carry weight in the house. By mid-morning, they climbed the polished staircase. The upstairs smelled faintly of lavender polish. Sunlight streamed through long curtains, laying soft rectangles of light on the carpet. Madame Rose pushed the study door open. "Be careful in here," she said. "Nothing is to be moved without permission." Ngozi stepped inside. Shelves lined the walls, filled with thick books, some with gold letters on the spines. The glass cabinet still held the carved figures and framed photos she had noticed before. The desk was large and heavy, papers stacked neatly on one side. A pen lay across an open notebook. They dusted the shelves slowly, Madame Rose showing her how to lift and wipe each book without bending the covers. "You see these figures?" Madame Rose said, pointing to a small wooden carving of a man holding a spear. "They are from the chief's travels. If one falls and breaks, it will be trouble." "I understand," Ngozi said. As she worked, she noticed movement in the doorway. Uche stood there, leaning on the frame, watching them. "Good morning," Madame Rose greeted him. "Morning," he said, stepping inside. His eyes went to Ngozi. "You are settling in." "Yes, sir," she replied, keeping her hands on the duster. He walked to the desk and picked up the pen, turning it in his fingers. "This house is different from the streets. Some people find it hard to adjust." "I will do my work," she said quietly. "That's good," he said, setting the pen down. "Just remember, not everyone you meet here will smile because they mean it." His words hung in the air, heavy. Then he left as quickly as he came. Madame Rose glanced at Ngozi. "Don't mind him. Just do your work well." They finished the study and moved to the guest rooms. Each had a soft bed, curtains that matched the bedspread, and a faint smell of fresh soap. Ngozi smoothed the sheets, straightened the pillows, and dusted the windowsills. By the time they reached the last room, it was almost lunchtime. From the open window, Ngozi saw the chief sitting in the garden, reading a newspaper. His posture was relaxed, but his head turned slightly, as if he was listening for something. At lunch, she helped Madhu set the table. The chief came in, followed by Kamsi and Uche. Chine arrived last, wearing a soft pink dress and a smile that seemed to be meant for someone specific. The conversation started light, Kamsi talking about the new foundation project, Uche asking about the Abuja trip. Then Chine leaned toward the chief. "You look well today," she said warmly. "Your medicine must be working." "It helps," he said, "but I think recovery is also about the people around you." Chine's smile flickered. "Yes, the right people make all the difference." Ngozi came forward to refill glasses. As she poured water into the chief's cup, she felt Kamsi watching her closely. "Where did you learn to pour like that?" Kamsi asked suddenly. Ngozi looked up. "It is just water, madam." "Yes, but you do it carefully, as if you've served in a big house before." "I haven't," Ngozi said simply. Kamsi smiled faintly, but her eyes stayed on Ngozi a moment too long before turning back to her plate. After lunch, Ngozi carried dishes to the kitchen. Madhu was scrubbing a pot. He looked up at her. "You are quiet," he said. "I am listening," she replied. "To what?" "To everything," she said. He chuckled softly. "Good. In this house, your ears will teach you more than your eyes." Later that afternoon, while polishing the glass in the dining room, Ngozi heard raised voices in the hallway. She froze, listening. "Bringing strangers here without telling us." Uche's voice, sharp. "She is not a stranger," the chief replied, calm but firm. "She saved my life." "That doesn't mean she belongs here," Uche said. "We don't know what she wants." "I know what she has done," the chief said, "and I know she has no reason to harm me." There was a pause. Then Uche's voice dropped lower. "Just be careful, father." Footsteps moved away. Ngozi's hands shook slightly on the cloth. She forced herself to keep polishing until the glass shone. That evening, the chief called her into the sitting room. He was alone, a cup of tea on the table beside him. "Ngozi," he said, "how has your first week been?" "It is good, sir," she said. "I am learning." "You have been watching," he said. "That is good too. But I want you to know something. There are things in this house that even I am still watching. If you see anything strange, you tell me." Her brow furrowed. "Strange like what?" "Anything that does not feel right," he said. "Sometimes the smallest thing can be a warning." She nodded slowly. "I will tell you." He smiled faintly. "Good girl." As she left the sitting room, she passed Chine in the hall. The woman's perfume floated ahead of her, sharp and sweet. Chine's eyes caught Ngozi's for a moment, then slid away without a word. That night, Ngozi sat on her bed, combing her hair slowly. Through the window, she could see lights glowing in the main house. She thought about the chief's words, about Uche's warning in the study, about the way Kamsi and Chine watched her. She knew she was safe from the street, But inside these walls, something else was moving. It wasn't loud. It wasn't clear. But it was there, like a shadow waiting for the right time to grow. And though she didn't know what it was yet, she could feel it watching her back. Morning was bright and soft, the kind that made the garden look new. Ngozi woke before the bell, washed, tied her pouch under her dress, and stepped into the courtyard. The mango tree leaves were still wet with dew. She felt steady. Work filled her mind. Work kept fear small. In the kitchen, Madhu was already moving fast, lifting pot lids, checking the oven, humming a low tune. Steam rose from a small saucepan on the back burner. Madame Rose stood by the counter with a list in her hand. "Good morning," Ngozi said. "Morning," Madame Rose replied. "Breakfast is lighter today. The doctor said the chief should avoid heavy food." Madhu nodded at the tray on the island. Pap, a little honey, fresh fruit, one slice of toast, and his morning tea. Simple. Ngozi began to line the tray, a white cup and saucer, a small honey jar, a bowl of sliced papaw and banana, the toast cut clean across. She wiped a tiny drop of honey from the saucer rim until it looked perfect. Her hands were calm. She liked making things neat. Neat felt like kindness. Chine walked in as the kettle began to whistle. She wore a crisp blouse and a cool smile. Her bracelet caught the light. "Good morning," she said lightly. "Is breakfast ready?" "Almost," Madhu replied, turning off the kettle. Chine glanced at the tray, then at Ngozi. "The chief will take breakfast in the study," she said. "He has calls." Madame Rose looked up from the list. "We usually serve him in the small dining room." "Today he asked for the study," Chine said with the same smile. "Please be quick. He has a board call at 8. Madhu poured hot water into the teapot and added 2 tea bags. The warm, clean smell rose at once. He set the pot on a small wooden stand to rest. "Ngozi," he said, "carry the tray when the tea is ready." "Yes, sir," she said, lifting the cloth to cover the fruit bowl. Madame Rose left to check the front rooms. Madhu reached for the salt tin, shook a little into a soup pot, then frowned. "Where is the ginger?" he murmured to himself, opening a drawer. "Ah!" He moved to the pantry. The kitchen door swung, then fell back to stillness. For a moment, the kitchen was quiet. The teapot sat, steeping. The steam curled up in slow threads. Ngozi wiped the tray once more, then looked at the clock. 7:46. 14 minutes. The side door opened again. The chef from the outside events team, Kelechi, a stocky man with a smooth face and small eyes, stepped in, walking soft. He did not look at her. "Good morning," Ngozi said. He glanced at her without smiling. "Morning." He crossed to the island. His hand moved fast, lifted the teapot lid, tipped a few grains from a tiny brown packet into the pot, and set the lid back. The movement was quick like a blink. He turned away at once, the empty packet vanishing into his pocket. Ngozi froze. The sound in her head went empty, like a room with all the air taken out. Her eyes went to the teapot, then to his hand, then back to his face. "What did you put in the tea?" she asked, voice low. Kelechi's expression did not change. "Sugar," he said. "That is not sugar," she said. "Sugar is white. That was brown powder." He held her gaze. "Brown sugar." "We do not put brown sugar inside the pot," she said. "We serve honey on the side." His jaw shifted. "Mind your work, girl." Her heart hit hard once, twice. She reached for the pot, pulled off the lid, and sniffed. A bitter, sharp scent lay under the tea smell, like metal and burnt leaves. Her stomach turned. "This is wrong," she said, louder now. "What is this?" Kelechi's hand snapped out and took the pot from her. "Do not touch what you don't understand." Madhu came back in with a small jar of ginger. He stopped at the door, reading the room at once. "What is it?" Ngozi pointed at the teapot. "He put something inside." Madhu's eyes moved to Kelechi's face. "What did you add?" Kelechi gave a small laugh. "You people are dramatic." It is cinnamon. The chief likes it sometimes. Mardu frowned. We never put cinnamon in the pot. We add a stick to the cup if he asks. Kelechi shrugged. Then I will make another pot. Calm down. No, Ngozi said quickly, stepping forward. Don't throw it away yet. She reached for the teapot again, hands steady now. If it is cinnamon, it will smell warm and sweet. This smells bitter. Kelechi's mouth thinned. You! Madame Rose walked back in at that moment. What is happening? Mardu spoke fast. Kelechi added something to the chief's tea. He says cinnamon. It doesn't smell right. Madame Rose's eyes sharpened. She went to the drawer, took a clean teaspoon, and dipped it into the pot. She lifted a drop to her tongue, barely touching it. She stilled. Her eyes flicked to Mardu's. That is not cinnamon, she said quietly. Spit it out. Don't swallow. Mardu rushed to the sink, spat, and rinsed. Madame Rose rinsed too, face tight. Kelechi put his hands up, lazy, unfazed. You people and your fear. You taste tea and call it poison. Madame Rose straightened. We will not serve this. She turned to Ngozi. Throw it away. Make a fresh pot. Mardu, watch her. Then to Kelechi, her voice like a wire. Who told you to touch the chief's tea? Kelechi smiled, small and slow. Chinu said he asked for cinnamon. As if her name were a bell, Chinu stepped in again, smooth as glass. Did someone call me? Madame Rose held up the teapot. Did you ask for cinnamon in the chief's tea? Chinu blinked in surprise. No. Who would do that? He is avoiding spices. Kelechi's face did not change, but the smile slipped off like a mask that had not been tied well. Chinu turned to him. Why would you add that? Do you want to upset his stomach? He opened his mouth, closed it, then let out a breath. I made a mistake. You do not make that kind of mistake, Madame Rose said. Get out. Now. Kelechi's eyes hardened. For a second, something cold flashed there. Then he left, stepped slow, as if he were not being pushed out but taking a walk he had planned. Madame Rose turned to Ngozi. Make a fresh pot. Fast. Ngozi boiled new water, rinsed a new pot, dropped in new tea bags with hands that did not shake. She watched the water darken and counted her breaths. Mardu sliced fruit again. Chinu stood too still, eyes on the door Kelechi had used. The kitchen felt like a drum pulled tight. When the tea was ready, Ngozi set the tray again and lifted it. The cup rattled once in the saucer. She stilled it with a finger and breathed. I will carry it, she said. No, Madame Rose began, but Ngozi met her eyes. Please, she said. Let me. Madame Rose held her gaze, saw the reason there, and nodded once. Go. Mardu, go with her. They moved through the hall, past the pictures, toward the study. The door was half open. Voices drifted out, Chief Obinna's, calm and tired. Another voice on speaker, formal and deep. Ngozi knocked lightly. Sir. Come in, the chief called. He sat at the desk, a pen in his hand, the phone on speaker. He looked up when she entered and gave a small smile that reached his eyes. Ah, breakfast. Yes, sir, she said, bringing the tray to the side table. Mardu set the fruit down and stepped back. She poured the tea into the cup. Steam curled up, warm and clean. The room smelled right again. She added a teaspoon of honey, stirred once, and set the cup before him. Thank you, he said. He lifted the cup, paused, then lowered it again and looked at her. Is everything all right? She felt the words pushing at her throat. She swallowed them down, then let them rise, careful and clear. Sir, the first pot of tea. Someone tried to add something to it. He stilled. What? Mardu said softly, we made a new pot at once. The chief's eyes moved from Ngozi to Mardu and back. Who touched the first pot? Before Mardu could speak, a voice cut in from the door. She did, Uche said, stepping inside. He looked at Ngozi, not angry, not calm, watchful. I saw her with the teapot from the hallway camera feed. She opened it. Ngozi turned, stunned. I opened it because Kelechi had already added something. Kelechi said she was the one who sprinkled something, Uche replied. He came to me at once. That is a lie, Ngozi said, heat rising in her chest. Madame Rose tasted it. She said it was not cinnamon. Chinu said the chief did not ask for it. Kamsi appeared in the doorway too, eyes wide. What is going on? Someone tried to put something in father's tea, Uche said flatly. And this girl was seen with the teapot. I was seen because I stopped it, Ngozi said, holding the chief's gaze. I cannot prove it with my hands, sir. Only with what I saw. The chief leaned back in his chair, the pen still in his fingers. His face did not show fear, but something inside him had drawn up like a rope being pulled. Where is Kelechi now? I sent him out, Madame Rose said, stepping in behind Kamsi. He said you asked for cinnamon. Chinu said you did not. Chinu stood behind them all, silent, eyes steady on the chief. Her face was smooth as water in a bowl. The air in the study thinned. The phone on the desk still murmured a meeting in another world. But in this room, time had changed shape. The chief lifted the fresh cup again and set it down without drinking. Close the door, he said. Uche closed it softly. The latch clicked. Listen to me, the chief said, voice low and firm. No one serves me anything today except Madu. And Ngozi. Uche's jaw tightened. Father. I am not finished, the chief said. Philip will pull the camera footage from the kitchen. We will see who touched what and when. Kamsi nodded quickly, relief swimming across her face. Yes, that will clear this up. Uche's eyes slid to Ngozi. He said nothing. The chief turned to Ngozi. Tell me exactly what you saw. She told him, step by step. The kettle's whistle. Madu leaving. Kelechi's fast hand. The tiny brown packet. The smell. The taste test. Chinu's answer. She used no big words. She added no extra color. She held each detail like a stone and set it down where it belonged. When she finished, the room was quiet. Kamsi said softly, Father, did you drink anything before now? No, he said. Only water from my bottle. Uche crossed his arms. We still have to be careful. This could be a trick to make us trust her over our own staff. Ngozi felt the words hit her like cold water. She did not answer him. She looked at the chief. He looked back, and for a long moment his face softened, as if a memory had touched him. The rain, the bridge, a girl's hand steady over his breath. Then the softness closed again. He rubbed his forehead. Call Philip, he said to Uche. Get the footage. Uche took out his phone, stepped to the side, and called. Kamsi moved closer to the desk, her hand on the edge as if to steady the room. Madame Rose looked at Ngozi and gave the slightest nod, a small anchor in a moving sea. Minutes later, Philip came in with a tablet. He placed it on the desk and played the kitchen feed. The camera showed the island, the kettle, the teapot. It showed Madu leaving. It showed Kelechi entering, his back to the camera, his body blocking the view of his hands. It showed Ngozi move to the pot, open it, sniff, call out. It showed Kelechi taking it back. It showed Madame Rose tasting a drop. Philip paused the video. The angle is bad, he said. You can't see the packet. Uche spread his hands a little. You see? It only shows her touching the pot. It also shows me tasting it, Madame Rose said, sharp. It was wrong. Chinu cleared her throat. Let us not fight. The important thing is the chief did not drink it. The chief sat back, eyes on the still frame frozen on the tablet. Ngozi leaning toward the pot, face tense and focused, Kelechi's back a dark wall. He closed his eyes for a second, then opened them. Kelechi is suspended, he said. Madu, you handle the kitchen. Rose, you watch everything that comes to me. Philip, change the camera to cover the island from the side as well. Philip nodded. Yes, sir. Uche glanced at Ngozi. "And what about her?" "What about her?" the chief said, the slightest edge in his tone. Uche spread his hands. "We barely know her. She arrives, and suddenly there is drama around your food. It is too neat." Kamsi's eyes flashed. "Uche, she saved him once already." "And people who save can also harm," Uche said quietly. "I am not accusing. I am warning." The chief looked down at his hands. For a breath, his face showed the cost of standing between two paths. His voice, when it came, was steady but heavy. "Ngozi stays," he said. "But," he paused, eyes flicking to her and away. "Rose, for now, the keys to the pantry and the tea cabinet will be with you and Madhu alone." Ngozi felt the line inside that sentence. Stays. But it was not anger. It was not trust either. It was a bridge he was trying to walk without falling. She bowed her head. "Yes, sir." "Go on," he said softly. "All of you. I need to think." They filed out. In the hall, the air felt lighter and colder at once. Kamsi touched Ngozi's arm. "Are you all right?" "Yes," Ngozi said. "Thank you." Uche stood by the doorway, watching. His voice was even. "Do not be alone in the kitchen," he said. "For your sake." "For my sake," she repeated, then nodded once. "I hear you." He gave her a last unreadable look and walked away. Back in the kitchen, Madhu washed his hands again, as if he could scrub the morning off his skin. "We will lock everything," he said. "From now on, only two of us touch the chief's food." Madame Rose nodded. "We will check every pot, and we will pray quietly while we work." Chinu stood a moment longer, then turned to go. At the door, she paused and looked back at Ngozi. Her face was kind and cool at the same time. "You did the right thing to speak," she said softly. "But in this house, the right thing has a price. Be ready." She left. The bracelet on her wrist flashed and was gone. Ngozi went to the sink and washed the fresh teapot as if it were the most important thing in the world. She set it upside down to dry and lined up the cups until they sat in a straight, perfect row. Her hands were steady again, but her chest felt strange, like a drum that had been struck and was still trembling. When she stepped into the corridor to carry linens upstairs, she heard voices from the study again. Low, tense, threads of family talk that did not want a stranger's ear. She moved on quietly. In the afternoon, she dusted the upstairs hall, moved from frame to frame. In one photo, the chief laughed with Uche and Kamsi, the late Madame Amora between them, her hand on his arm. In the glass, Ngozi saw her own face reflected for a second, small, clear, and serious. She wiped the glass and the reflection slid away. Evening came slow. Dinner was careful and plain. Madhu and Madame Rose stood like quiet walls in the kitchen doorway, eyes counting every plate. No one mentioned tea. No one mentioned cinnamon. Conversation lived on safe islands, charity plans, a school that needed paint, an old friend who sent flowers. After the table was cleared, Philip found Ngozi by the back steps. "The camera angle has been fixed," he said. "Tomorrow we will see everything." "Thank you," she said. He hesitated. "Are you frightened?" "I am not," she said. Then she told the truth. "I am sad." Because the chief hesitated. She met his eyes. Because he is not safe in his own house. Philip looked toward the main building, lights warm behind the curtains. "Safety is a thing we build and rebuild," he said. "It never stands still." He paused. "Be careful. Watch without staring. Listen without leaning. If you see anything again, come to me first." "I will," she said. Night gathered. The mango leaves whispered. Ngozi lay on her bed and listened to the soft engine of the house. The pipes, the hum, doors opening and closing like careful breaths. She held her pouch and breathed with the house, slow and steady. In the study, the chief sat alone with a cup of plain water and the tablet dark on the desk. He turned his wedding ring on his finger, then let it go. He closed his eyes and saw rain. A bridge, a girl's voice saying, "You are not dying today." He opened his eyes and saw, instead, a house full of doors, some open, some closed, and shadows standing still in doorways, waiting. He wanted to trust the girl who moved when everyone else froze. He wanted to trust his children too. Both once pulled at him from different sides. He set the water down and pressed his palm to his chest, feeling for the steady beat that told him he was still here. He was still here. But the question lay on the desk between the cup and the silent phone like a note he could not ignore. Who, inside my own house, wants me gone? And even though he had spoken strong orders that morning, doubt had entered by a narrow path. It sat down and folded its hands. It looked like worry. It sounded like caution. It felt, to him, like betrayal warming its feet by his fire. In the dark, the house listened to itself breathe. And somewhere in that quiet, a plan that had failed once began to turn, looking for a second chance. The next 2 days moved slowly but felt heavy, like the house was holding its breath. Every meal for the chief passed through Madhu and Madame Rose's hands. The tea cabinet stayed locked. The pantry key never left Madame Rose's pocket. Ngozi did her work quietly, but her ears caught things. Snatches of conversations in hallways, footsteps that stopped when she turned, glances exchanged when they thought she wasn't looking. On the third night after the tea incident, she was folding linens in the laundry room when Kamsi appeared at the doorway. "Father is resting early," Kamsi said, her voice low. "He had another dizzy spell today. Did you know?" Ngozi shook her head. "No, madam, I didn't hear." Kamsi stepped inside. "He says it's nothing, but I think it's not over. Someone will try again." She hesitated, then added, "Be careful, Ngozi. If they can't reach him, they might turn on you." "I'm not afraid for myself," Ngozi said, "but I'm afraid for him." Kamsi looked at her for a moment, nodded once, and left. Later that night, Ngozi carried a basket of fresh towels toward the staff quarters. The corridor was quiet, dim with just the wall lamps lit. She passed the main sitting room and noticed the door to the study slightly open. Voices drifted out, Uche's and another man's she didn't recognize. "It will be done," the stranger said. "It has to be quick," Uche replied. "We can't afford another scare that drags on." Ngozi froze, the towels heavy in her arms. She leaned closer without touching the door. "What about the girl?" the man asked. "She's already in the way," Uche said flatly. "We'll make sure she's gone before she notices anything." The sound of a chair moving made Ngozi step back fast. She hurried past, keeping her head down, the towels a shield between her and the open door. Inside her room, she set the basket down and sat on the bed, heart pounding. She thought about telling the chief immediately, but she also remembered Philip's warning. Watch without staring, listen without leaning. If she accused without proof, they could turn it back on her. The next morning, work went on as if nothing was wrong. The chief ate breakfast in the dining room, quiet but alert. Chinu discussed a weekend event with Madame Rose. Uche left early, saying he had business in the city. By evening, the tension in Ngozi's chest hadn't eased. She was in the kitchen helping Madhu prepare dinner when Madame Rose said, "Ngozi, go to the storage room and bring another bag of rice." Ngozi nodded and went. The storage room was at the far end of the back corridor, past the staff quarters. She stepped inside, the faint smell of grain and dried peppers filling her nose. She spotted the bag on the bottom shelf and bent to lift it. The door slammed. She spun around, dropping the bag. She rushed to the door and grabbed the handle. It didn't turn. "Hello?" she called, knocking hard. "Who locked the door?" Silence. She banged again, louder. "Open the door. I'm inside." Her pulse quickened. She tried the handle again, jiggling it hard. Nothing. She pressed her ear to the wood, listening. Footsteps echoed in the corridor, slow and fading. She stepped back, breathing fast. The storage room was small, no windows, no other way out. The air felt warmer already. She thought about Uche's voice last night. "We'll make sure she's gone before she notices anything." Her hands went to the pouch under her dress. She held it like it could think for her. Then she shouted again, this time calling Madu's name. Madu, Madam Rose, I'm locked in. Minutes dragged. Her voice began to turn hoarse from calling. She started banging the door in a steady rhythm, hoping someone would hear through the kitchen noise. At last, the bolt scraped and the door opened. Madam Rose stood there, frowning hard. What happened? She asked. Someone locked me in, Ngozi said, stepping out quickly. I don't know who. Who told you to go there? You did, Ngozi said. Madam Rose's frown deepened. I never sent you here. I was in the kitchen with Madu the whole time. Ngozi blinked. But someone told me. I heard your voice. That was not me, Madam Rose said firmly. Ngozi, someone is playing with you. The realization sank like cold water in Ngozi's stomach. Someone had lured her here on purpose. When they returned to the kitchen, Madu looked up. Where have you been? We needed the rice. She was locked in the storage room, Madam Rose said, by someone using my voice. Madu's face hardened. This house is turning dangerous. Ngozi didn't sleep much that night. Every sound in the staff quarters felt like a signal. The whisper of feet, the creak of wood. It all fed the thought that someone was moving pieces in the dark, and she was one of them. By morning, she knew one thing for certain. The attack on the chief hadn't been a single try. It was part of something bigger, and now they were ready to clear her out first. But she also knew something else. If they thought locking her in a dark room would scare her away, they didn't know her at all. The house felt tight all day, like a drum stretched too much. After the storage room trap, everyone moved with careful steps. Madam Rose kept the pantry keys on a string around her neck. Madu checked every pot twice. Philip fixed the cameras so they could see the island from both sides. Still, the air felt wrong. By afternoon, clouds gathered. The sky turned gray, and wind pushed the mango leaves against the window like hands. The chief finished a short walk in the garden and told Philip he would rest in his study. He looked tired, but he smiled at Ngozi as he passed. Drink water, she said, without thinking. He paused and nodded. You mother me now, he teased softly. Good. She watched him go and told herself to breathe. Evening fell early. Lights clicked on, one by one, as if the house didn't want darkness to enter all at once. In the kitchen, Madu plated a simple dinner. Boiled yam, garden egg sauce, and grilled fish. Madam Rose checked the tray and whispered, God, keep us. Ngozi carried water to the small dining room. On the way back, she slowed by the study. The door was not fully closed. She heard the chief's voice, low, steady, speaking on the phone. Yes, I will join the meeting tomorrow. No, keep it quiet for now. Yes, I know who to trust. I am watching. His voice made her feel calm for a heartbeat. She turned to go. Then the sound changed. A heavy thud. A chair leg scraping. The phone hitting the floor. Ngozi dropped the water jug on the side table and ran in. The chief was on the carpet by the desk, one hand on his chest, his breath thin and broken like a weak whistle. His eyes were wide and full of fear he was trying not to show. Sir, she cried, sliding to her knees. Look at me. He tried to speak, but no words came. His lips were pale. His fingers opened and closed, trying to find air in the room. Ngozi's mind went still in the way that happens only when it matters most. She pulled the pouch from under her dress, tore it open, crushed 2 dried leaves between her palms, and brought them close to his nose and mouth. In, out, follow me, she said, voice steady. In, out. His breath caught, failed, caught again. She leaned closer, warming the leaves with her hands, letting the sharp, clean smell rise strong. Stay with me, she whispered. Please don't die, sir. They want you gone. Stay with me. Footsteps pounded in the hall. Father! Uche's voice. He rushed in, stopped, saw her over the chief, and froze for 1 second too long. Call Philip. Ngozi shouted without looking up. Call the ambulance. Now! Uche woke from the freeze and grabbed his phone. Philip, study, now. He ran to the door, yelling down the corridor. "Philip! Kamsi! Help!" Kamsi burst in with Philip right behind her. "Oh God!" she breathed, kneeling on the other side of the chief. "Daddy, please." Philip crouched at the chief's head, checking his pulse with quick fingers. "Pulse is weak," he said, voice focused. "Keep him breathing." Ngozi kept the leaves in place and matched his breath with her own. "In, out. Listen to me, sir." The chief's eyes rolled toward her voice. A small sound left his throat. He fought for the rhythm, reached, found it, lost it, found it again. "Ambulance," Philip said into his phone, then into his radio. "Security, open the gate. Now." Madame Rose and Madhu appeared in the doorway, faces tight. Chinu came too, hand to her mouth, eyes wide and shining. "What happened?" she asked, stepping closer. "Give them space," Philip said sharply. "Don't crowd him." Time stretched. It was just breath, the leaves, the quiet count of in and out, and the chief's hand clutching the rug like he was holding the edge of a cliff. Rain began to rap on the windows. Thunder walked across the far sky. Uche stood still, one hand on the desk as if holding the room from falling. His eyes kept darting to Ngozi's hands, then to the chief's face, then to the doorway, as if he was measuring 10 things at once and none of them fit. Kamsi leaned close to her father's ear. "Daddy, hear her voice," she said softly. "Follow it. Come back." The chief coughed once, sharp and painful, and a bit of saliva spotted the rug. His chest rose deeper. He took a long breath, shaky but real. "Good," Ngozi whispered. "Again. In, out." Red and blue lights flashed on the ceiling. The ambulance had arrived. Paramedics rushed in with a stretcher and a bag. They moved fast but careful, their hands sure and their talk short. "What happened?" one asked. "Breathing collapsed," Philip said. "Second time this month." "Who started first aid?" the paramedic asked, glancing at Ngozi. "She did," Kamsi said at once. "She kept him going." "Good," the paramedic said. "Keep that scent there a bit." He fixed a mask over the chief's face, checked his oxygen, and gave a small nod. "Breathing stabilizing. Let's move." They lifted the chief. His hand reached out blindly and found Ngozi's wrist, just for a second, the same way it had under the flyover. He squeezed, not hard, just enough to say, "I know you are here." Then they carried him out. "Uche, go with them," Philip said. "I'm going," Uche replied, already moving. "I'll come too," Kamsi said, and followed. The house fell into a strange quiet. The rain grew louder. Chinu stood in the doorway, one hand on the frame, her face pale under careful makeup. "Ngozi," she said, soft. "Are you all right?" Ngozi wiped her hands on her dress, green stain faint on her palms. "I'm fine." "You saved him again," Chinu said, almost like a question. Ngozi didn't answer. She looked at the empty spot on the rug, the fallen pen, the phone on the floor still lit with a silent line. She bent, picked the phone, and placed it on the desk. Philip stayed behind. He stared at the desk, at the cup of water, at the waste bin. He took a breath and turned to Ngozi. "What did you see?" he asked. "I saw him fall," she said. "I didn't see anyone else in the room before that." Philip nodded slowly. "Okay, we will check the footage." Madame Rose touched Ngozi's arm. "Come, wash your hands. Sit for a moment." "I don't want to sit," Ngozi said. "I want to see the cameras with you." Philip's eyes met hers. He weighed her words, her face, her steadiness. "All right," he said. "Come." They went to the small security room. Screens showed the halls, the kitchen, the garden, the gates. Philip rewound the study camera to 10 minutes before the fall. The angle showed the desk, the door, and part of the window. They watched the chief enter, pick up a file, sit. They watched him drink water from his bottle, place the bottle down, make a call. They watched no one else enter. "Check the corridor," Ngozi said. Philip clicked to another screen. The corridor camera showed people passing in and out of view. Madhu to the dining room, Chine from the front hall to the kitchen, Uche from the study to his room and back. Nothing strange. Nothing clear. Kitchen, Ngozi said. They watched the kitchen footage. Madhu and Madame Rose plating dinner, the stove steady, the tea cabinet closed, keys on a string. No one touched the chief's food. So it was not the food, Ngozi said, voice small but firm. Something else. Philip leaned closer to the study feed and zoomed on the desk. On the far side, near the lamp, sat a small glass paperweight. He clicked back a few minutes, then a few more. Watch the window, he said. Wind pushed the curtain once, twice. The paperweight didn't move. The chief reached for a pen, wrote, paused, pressed his chest. He reached for water again, then didn't drink. His hand shook. He stood. His knee hit the chair leg. He fell. No one came in, Philip said, frustrated. No one touched his drink. Ngozi stared at the screen, then at Philip. But someone wants him gone. Philip's jaw tightened. Yes. He turned to her. Go and rest. I'll follow them to the hospital soon. I want to wait in the sitting room, she said. Please. He nodded. The house waited with her. The rain softened to a steady hiss. Madame Rose brought warm water and told her to sip. Chine sat in a corner chair, fingers tight on her bracelet, eyes far away. Madhu paced and then stood still and then paced again. At last, the front door opened. Uche and Kamsi came in with wet shoulders and tired faces. Philip arrived behind them, hair damp. How is he? Madame Rose asked, voice shaking. Stable, Philip said. They are running tests. The doctor asked about stress. Stress. Uche repeated, almost laughing, but there was no joy in it. As if stress walks into your study, knocks you to the floor, and presses your chest. Kamsi's eyes were red but clear. She looked at Ngozi. Thank you, she said. Again. Ngozi nodded, but her eyes were on the floor. Did he say anything? He woke for a moment, Kamsi said. He asked, where is the girl? I told him you were here. Something inside Ngozi steadied at those words. Not pride. Not relief. Just a small anchor dropping into a deep place. Uche rubbed his face with both hands, then let them fall. He looked at Philip. We can't keep reacting, he said. We have to act. Philip's gaze flicked to Ngozi and back. The chief said the same, he replied. On the way, he said, tomorrow, we end this. The room went quiet. How? Kamsi asked. Philip's mouth set. He will call everyone. A family meeting. Staff included. He wants the cameras, the kitchen logs, the guard logs. He wants to speak with one voice. Uche leaned against the wall, eyes closed for a long second. Good, he said. It's time. Ngozi felt the air change. It was like the pause before rain breaks, when the wind holds its breath and the first cold drop touches your skin. She looked at the study door, at the place on the carpet where the chief had fallen, and then at the long hall that led to the front of the house. She knew what tomorrow meant. It meant light in dark corners. It meant voices raised. It meant truth trying to stand while lies tried to pull it down. She also knew something else. Tonight would be the most dangerous night. The moment before light is when shadows move the most. She tightened the knot of her pouch and said, quietly but clearly, I will not leave him. No one argued. In the hospital room across town, the chief lay under a thin blanket. The beeping of a monitor kept time with his heart. He opened his eyes and saw the white ceiling, then the rain on the window, then the reflection of his own face. Tired, alive, stubborn. He remembered the bridge. He remembered the storage room story Philip told him. He remembered the sudden fall, the leaves, the girl's whisper. Please don't die, sir. They want you gone. He turned his head and breathed in and out, once, twice, and said to the room, to himself, to whatever listened, tomorrow. He closed his eyes, not to sleep, but to gather strength. Because morning would need it. And because the next step would change the house forever. Morning came cold and bright. The rain had washed the night clean, but inside the house, the air still carried the weight of the day before. Ngozi woke early, dressed, and tied her pouch close. She had not slept much. Every creak in the night had sounded like a footstep too near her door. By 8 o'clock, the chief was back from the hospital. He walked slowly but with a steady back. A light sweater covered his shoulders. His face was pale but his eyes were sharp. Philip followed behind him, carrying a folder. "Call everyone," the chief told him as he stepped into the main sitting room. "Family, staff, no one stays away." Chairs were pulled into a wide circle. The big windows let in the sun, but the room felt like it was holding its breath. Ngozi sat near the back, between Madame Rose and Madu. She kept her hands folded tight in her lap. One by one, they came in: Uche, Kamsi, Chainu, the security chief, 2 of the guards, the head gardener, the driver. Even Kelechi was brought in, his face flat and unreadable. The chief stayed standing. "We will speak the truth today," he said. His voice was calm, but it cut through the room. "And the truth will decide who remains in this house." He nodded to Philip. Philip set the folder on the table and opened it. "We have footage from every camera, logs from the kitchen, guard posts, and staff movements for the last 2 weeks." He played the first clip, Ngozi pulling the chief from the edge of collapse in the study 2 nights ago. The sound of her voice filled the room. "In, out, stay with me." The chief's hand clutching her wrist. The paramedics arriving. Philip paused the screen. Before this moment, the study camera shows no one entering. But the corridor camera shows someone waiting near the door before the chief fell. He played another clip. Uche stood near the corner, pretending to scroll on his phone. Kelechi approached from the opposite end, holding something small in his palm. They stopped, spoke briefly. Kelechi slipped the item into his pocket and walked toward the kitchen. Murmurs rose. Kamsi's eyes widened. "What is that?" she asked. "We checked the pantry," Philip said. The same item, a small packet with traces of a toxic herb, was found in the bin after the tea incident. All eyes turned to Kelechi. He shrugged, trying to keep his face calm. "I told you before, it was cinnamon. This is being twisted." The chief's gaze did not move from him. "And the storage room? Who locked Ngozi inside?" Silence. Madame Rose spoke. "She heard my voice, but I never called her." Philip picked up a remote and played another clip. This one from a side hall camera, Kelechi walking to the storage room door, looking over his shoulder, then sliding the bolt shut. Gasps broke the quiet. "That's not," Kelechi began, but the chief lifted a hand and he stopped. "You worked here for 3 years," the chief said. "I trusted you in my kitchen, and you tried to end my life." Kelechi's jaw tightened. "I was told to," he said. The room froze. "By who?" Philip asked. Kelechi's eyes slid toward Uche, then to Chainu. He gave a dry laugh. "Why should I say? You think they'll keep me safe if I talk?" The chief stepped closer. "No one here will harm you for speaking, but if you stay silent, I will take that as the truth being against you alone." Kelechi's voice was low now. It came from someone who shares your blood. Every head turned to Uche. "That's a lie," Uche said at once. "He's trying to drag me down with him." "Then explain this," Philip said, clicking to another clip, the moment Uche and Kelechi spoke in the corridor before the second collapse. The packet passing hands was now clear on the side camera. The room erupted. Kamsi's voice shook. "Uche, tell me this isn't true." Uche's face tightened. "You don't understand. Father was handing this company away, planning to put it in outsiders' hands. We had to." "We?" The chief cut in, his voice like steel. "So you admit it?" Uche's mouth opened and closed, but no words came. The chief turned to everyone. "From this moment, Uche Obinna is no longer welcome in this house or this company. His accounts are frozen. His access is revoked." Uche's chair scraped the floor. "You would throw away your own son for a stranger." "I am throwing away betrayal," the chief said. His eyes burned. "Ngozi saved my life twice. You tried to end it twice. The blood in your veins is not enough to keep you here. Uche looked at Kamsi, at Chime, at Philip, but no one spoke for him. His shoulders sank for a second. Then he straightened and walked out without another word. The chief waited until the door shut. Then he looked at Kelechi. You will be handed to the police with all evidence. Pray they are kinder than I would be. 2 guards stepped forward and led Kelechi out. Silence filled the space they left. The chief sat at last, his face heavy but sure. This house will change, he said. From today, Ngozi will not be called a witch, a curse, or a stranger. She will live here as my legal ward. And in my will, a part of my estate will go to her name. Ngozi's head snapped up. Sir, I never asked. You earned it, he said. Not with greed, but with courage. You stepped forward when even my own children did not. Tears stung her eyes, but she kept her voice steady. Thank you. He gave a small smile. Use it well. I expect to see others lifted because of you. Yes, sir, she whispered. Kamsi reached over and squeezed Ngozi's hand. Welcome to the family, she said softly. Outside, the sun climbed higher, pouring light through the wide windows. The air in the room felt different now, not heavy, but clear, like a door had been opened and the wind was free to move again. Later, as the meeting ended and people drifted out, the chief stopped Ngozi in the hall. One more thing, he said. Why did you risk yourself, knowing they would come for you? She thought of the bridge, the cold rain, the sound of his breath fighting for space. Because life is worth fighting for, she said, even if it's not mine. The chief nodded slowly, like someone storing a truth they would keep forever. Then you will do well here. That evening, Ngozi walked back to the flyover, not to sleep, but to keep her word. The children under the bridge ran to her, shouting her name. She gave them bread, bottled water, and a promise to return. From the road above, the city kept moving, buses and cars rushing past. But under the flyover, something stood still. A girl who had been called a witch now carrying the weight of a home she never thought she would have, and the trust of a man she had twice pulled back from the edge. And somewhere far behind her, in a white house guarded by tall gates, a family line had been cut and a new one had quietly begun.